don't bury the punchline. Don't talk about your technicalities. Don't talk about the description of your product. Talk about the pain point or the desire that your audience needs. What's up, everybody? Welcome to an episode of Call Her Creator, powered by Stan. I'm your host, Caitlin Rhodes, and today we have a cool episode. I'm excited about this. There is a performance playbook. I'm showing it to the camera right now if you're watching this on YouTube. But Meta put out this Reels playbook, and I'm either going to roast it or I'm going to tell you guys some good tidbits that I have found inside of this playbook to help you guys up your Reels, I guess. If anyone is like me, the Reels views over on Instagram have been complete garbage. If I'm being honest with you, I'm playing around with my content. I'm doing funny skits. I'm using original audio. I'm using trending audio, and nothing is performing how it typically does. But am I giving up? No. And hopefully me talking to you guys today will maybe inspire you to maybe change some things up, try some things new. Maybe we'll find some goodies inside of this performance playbook. I don't know. So before we get into it, first off, I want to say thank you for being here. If you're listening today, please download the podcast. That is how we are able to tell that people are actually listening to it. And if you leave me a review, that's even better because I actually read those reviews and it really just helps me to keep going. So before we get into today, let's talk about any updates over on Instagram. There hasn't been a lot of updates, but there has been the commenting on stories update, which I think is, I don't know, it's kind of silly in my opinion, because I would rather the algorithm fix itself before they start giving us these new updates with commenting on my stories. But I will say one thing that I've noticed, and one thing that maybe you can take from this. I follow Brock, obviously. And on his stories, I've been noticing the little bubbles of people's faces. And I think it's because they're commenting on Brock's story. So not only is it giving Brock engagement and people are commenting on his story, but when they comment, I'm seeing their face up on my story highlights. So it's kind of helping them get discovered by me as well. So I don't know. I always tell you guys when there's a new feature out, you should go and test it. Maybe go comment on my story and people will see your little face pop up on top of my story face bubble. It's going to show your story face bubble. Maybe test it today. Go watch one of my stories, leave a comment, and then maybe ask your friend. They'd have to be following me to see me up in the story highlights, but ask them if they can see your face up there. To be honest with you, it's kind of intrigued me with Brock's story. When I see that, I end up clicking on the people just to see who's that commenting on Brock's story? Or maybe I know who it is and I feel like I need to go comment on the story too. So that's just something to think about. It's a new update. I don't know if it's really going to be too helpful as far as helping you grow your Instagram page. But on the flip side of that, I'm telling you guys that it's helped me kind of see other gurus commenting on his story. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it will help you get in front of new eyes if you go comment on someone's story. If you're not following me already, I have changed my name. It's at the Caitlin Rhodes. I am no longer social marketing queen. So if you go follow me after listening to this podcast, please go find the Caitlin Rhodes. You can also follow Call Her Creator for very podcast specific content from me. Okay, so let's just get into this performance playbook. I truly feel like I'm about to roast this thing. I feel like we're on Comedy Live, Comedy Central. Is that what it's called? SNL. This is like an episode of SNL. Not as bad because I'm not going to say mean things. But okay, so it's called Real Talk on Reels. It's on Meta. So if you want to download it yourself and print it, you totally can. But it's called the Performance Playbook Pocket version. And it's got 3 little pictures of a Reels screenshot. And it's looking like it's kind of pushing out ads, which makes sense because if y'all did not know this, we're about to enter the holiday season, and with that, ads are going to be pushing organic reach out of the water. Last holiday season, organic reach was pretty down because people were spending their ad budget. So you got to think about this. Big companies, they're entering Q4. They've got this money left over. So what are they going to do with it? They're going to spend it on ads. So ads do end up taking a lot more space up on Facebook and Instagram, probably TikTok too. So just know that if you start seeing less engagement, not that we're already struggling with this, you might see it even more as the holiday season approaches. So what this starts out telling us is the language of Reels. Reels isn't just a placement, it's a language. So what they're talking about here is they're saying that you should speak the Reels language to get good views on your Reels. So there's 3 characteristics they talk about here. It's entertaining, digestible, and relatable. Okay, so that's what we all talk about. Entertaining, mix audio, visual effects, and creative storytelling to provoke an emotional response. Yes, we already know this. This is something that I call edutainment. So I was actually talking with Brock the other day in the DMs, and he had posted something. I'm sorry, Brock, I am not obsessed with you. I don't know why I keep talking about you, but it's just, he hosts one of the other Stan podcasts, so it's easy to talk about Brock. But he was talking about how educational content is just kind of dipping down over on Instagram. And if you don't know, the reason because of that is Instagram is pushing shares. They're pushing content that people send in the DMs, or they send to stories, or they share it with a friend, or they tag a friend. They are pushing anything that gets shares. So if you've been posting a lot of educational content, if it's not getting like a heavy amount of shares, it's probably not getting as many views because share worthy content is what is being favored. So that's where edutainment can come in. It's where you can still educate, but you're going to have to entertain them at the same time. So for example, like you used to be able to just get like a talking head video of you doing a reel, talking, educating someone on a certain subject, but now that's just not getting the traction that it used to. So you got to be entertaining with it. So you need to be like jumping off a building. Just kidding. Don't go do that. But I've seen people like jump out of their car and like they're walking / running while someone's recording them. And then maybe they've got text on screen teaching you something. That's like an edutainment reel. Maybe I actually did one a couple of months ago where I was twerking. Y'all know I love to dance, but I still taught them something. I used the text overlay tool to tell them what I was about to teach them. And then they could go to the caption to read more about that certain topic that I was discussing. So I just don't feel like talking into the camera really cuts it anymore. I think you have to use B-roll or do something funny, or, maybe you're not even funny. Maybe you can build things with your hands, or maybe you're a good drawer, or maybe you write really good. I've seen reels where people write the information down on a notebook. That's entertaining because they're kind of watching what you're about to write. So just kind of get a little jiggy with it when it comes to entertainment content. You got to think outside the box. Don't just sit there and talk into the video. You could always like maybe start talking into the video, but then add in B-roll or something like that just to make it more engaging. The next characteristic here is digestible, which we all know and love. Digestible means that it's easy to digest. It's short and sweet. They understand what you're about to tell them. You're not going on and on. It's not a 3-minute video. It's just short, sweet, to the point. They got it. And then there's relatable. Great reels tell stories. They're relatable. They help people recognize. So I really love relatable content. So what you need to think here too, though, is when you're doing relatable content, that does not mean to relate to other people in your industry as much as it means to help someone. Like, think about your target customer or audience. What is like a pain point or a desire that they could relate with, that's going to make them relate with you? Because you can still relate with people in your industry, but if you're trying to hit your target audience, if that's who you want following you, then you need to think about them and not so much you. I see a lot of like there's a really cool realtor out there. He does a lot of relatable content for other realtors, but he's a realtor coach, so that makes sense for him. But if he was just a realtor trying to get buyers and sellers, then I would want him to more so share content that relates to home buyers and sellers. So kind of see the difference there. You have to understand the difference between relating to people in your industry and relating to people in like your target audience. And there is a point too where you can do both. Like sometimes I will relate to other creators just because, but probably 75% of my content is going to be relating to my customers or my target audience. All right, so let's see what else is in here. 51% of people creating videos in the language of reels, which is entertaining, digestible, relatable, can improve their conversions and get people to purchase from them if they're trying to sell. So half, 51% is half. Meta. Okay, the next page on here is creative elements. Here are some tactics you can use to make your reels more entertaining, digestible, and relatable. So all of the 3 characteristics we talk about, this is how you're going to do it. Now, laughing at this because what they write here is just so generic, but I'm going to break it down for you guys as an expert with Instagram marketing. So first one is explore audio. Explore ways to use music, voiceover, or sound effects. Okay, you want to give me a little bit more there? I don't know. Okay, I guess this is a good topic. Let's think about audio for a second when it comes to reels. Like a lot of people might not even know that you can actually do all 3. So if I do like a B-roll ad, not ad, but a B-roll reel, let's say that I recorded myself eating cereal this morning and I'm going to make it into a reel. There is the option to add music to that. And then you can also add a voiceover over that telling a story. So I think that's what they're trying to say here, which makes sense because that is very helpful when you're creating reels. You've got the B-roll effect, you've got the effect of music in the background to keep it entertaining, and then you've got someone telling a story. Now there's also sound effects that can be found on reels. Now for some reason my account only gives me 1 sound effect option. I don't know why, because I believe that there's a ton of sound effects that you can use. So maybe I'm not using it the right way or I need to update my app. But since there's not a ton of sound effects for me inside of the Instagram app, if I want a sound effect, like maybe a page turning or a kaboom or a siren or something like that, I'll save my video from Instagram and I'll pull it up into InShot, which is my favorite video editor for Reels. And they have a ton of different sound effects in there. And then I'll just add it in InShot and then re-upload it over to Instagram Reels. Editing techniques, this one's good. Play with editing techniques like transitions or fast edits. So if you did not know, Instagram Reels, you have the editing option to add in a transition so that you don't have to do it yourself. So way back when, 3 years ago, we were having to do our own transitions where like you shake the camera or you jump in or jump out or you use your hand and then you're in a different background. What's cool now is that Reels has added these little buttons when you're editing a reel, as long as it's 2 or more clips. So maybe you have 1 long clip, split that clip in half so that you can get this option to add a transition. You'll see a little like space in between the 2 clips with like a chance for you to click the button. And if you click that, that allows you to add a transition. And they have like a spin transition, or it gets shaky, or like it blurs out. All of these are really good, eye-catching, easy to implement transitions that I most definitely agree with them here in this creative playbook. They're going to help you get your people to stay on your reel longer because it's a transition. It's making people, it's pulling them in basically. Filters and effects. I obviously use filters because I'm a woman and maybe I have a zit on my face that day or something. So I'll use like a beautify filter on my face. But beyond the beautify filters, there's other cool filters that you can use. I've used filters that help me duplicate myself so that there's like 3 of me in a video doing a dance, which is pretty cool and gets people watching. It's something different. There's also the green screen effect. That's under the filters as well. The green screen effect is one of the top performing effects that I use when I create reels. Now, the green screen effect is where you can basically record yourself and then add something in the background of you, like a video or a photo. So this is great if you want to show off like a new product or offer. Maybe you're a realtor and you want to show a home tour. Maybe you are an industry expert and you've got a screenshot of a Google article and you want to talk about it. I highly recommend using the green screen effect. If you've never used it before, obviously that's your homework for this episode is to go try it out. But I'd try implementing the green screen effect like probably once a week because that's how good they perform. Hooks are in here. Use the first 2 seconds to capture attention. So I typically read and preach like the first 3 to 5 seconds, but Meta is saying the first 2 seconds. So that is just so crazy how fast our attention spans have gotten. So in the first 2 seconds of your reel, you are either going to have to lock them in with a really good hook, or you're going to have to add some movement, or something's going to have to happen within those first 2 seconds, or they'll just continue to scroll. So either have a very strong hook, use the text overlay tool, which is another tip in here, or use movement. maybe you're in one spot and then you change to another spot and you continue recording. Speaking of the text overlay tool, highly recommend using that when you are making reels, because I believe I read something that it was like 70% of people watch reels with the audio off. So you need to make sure that you are using either closed captions or the text overlay tool. Now, when I say use the text overlay tool, I'm not saying that you need to write a paragraph on your reel, but you could at least pull out little keywords or phrases that you're teaching about and add that to your reel while it's playing. That's just going to help people to understand what the reel's about. And if their audio's off, it's going to pull them in. A human presence. Obviously, this one is a big one. Using real people in your videos does wonders. There was a big boom with faceless marketing for a while, and I think it did good for a little while, but at the end of the day, we're all humans and we want connection. So whether you're a brand or a business or just one person team, a one-man band, showing up every once in a while, showing your face is really going to help build that connection of you and your viewer who's watching the screen. So I highly recommend showing up in video every once in a while. The last thing here is swap the polish for a lo-fi or UGC. So I'm not going to get into UGC right now, but as far as like the word polish really popped out to me. And if you've been with me for a really long time and watched my reels for a while, you've probably seen me become a little unpolished with how I used to be. I used to think that everything had to be perfect, my makeup, my background, the filter, all of it. But now I'm just at this point where like people don't relate to packaged and polished. They want messy and unpolished. And sometimes I'm a little unhinged, and there's people out there that relate with that. So don't feel like everything has to be perfect and polished. Meta is telling us in this playbook that that is not the case. You do not have to be perfect all the time. Okay, so editing techniques. There's a couple that they're talking about in here that actually help with views, which I agree with these. So the first one is transitions. We just talked about transitions. Basically is where you like stitch two clips together in a seamless edit. So again, you can either use the in-app transition button that I told you guys about, or you can do the transition yourself. I'll tell you the easiest transition to do is to set your camera up on self-timer, start recording, and then hit the lens right before the recording ends, and then change your background so that the next video that you create, you're going to put your hand back on the lens and take it off, and now you're in this new background. That is an easy to do transition. It works pretty well. There also used to be a really cool transition where someone had a blanket and they would shake it, and then the last shake would go over the camera, and then when they came back out, they were in a new outfit or something like that. So the trick with that is that you're going to set your self-timer up again, do your thing in front of the reel, then shake your blanket. Then you're going to have to go back into that reel and edit the clip to where it stops when the blanket is over the lens, okay? Then you're going to hit the self-timer again, and you're going to shake that blanket again. Now you're going to edit this new clip to where the blanket is in front of the lens again. So now when you play it, it's going to look like you shake the blanket, and then you're going to be like in your new outfit or your new area, wherever you are. It might sound a little confusing as I'm explaining it here, but it's a cool transition. If you need help with transitions, I mean, a quick Google search online, there's going to be a ton of like YouTube videos and tutorials out there if you're really trying to get fun with your transitions. Zoom is another easy to implement editing technique. There's actually an effect on Instagram Reels. If you go to effects and you search, you can search zoom, and like there's effect where there's like a slow zoom. So if you are sitting here like I am now, like recording a podcast, and you don't have any movement, you could at least put that slow zoom in there. There's also like a fast zoom where it cuts in and out. There's one that follows you. So the zoom technique is pretty easy to implement. And then the last one here is short clips. So if you just take a couple of short clips throughout your day, like B-roll, and then put them all together for like a 7-second reel, a 10-second reel, that one should get good views as long as you have a good strong hook in there, like the meaning of the reel is good. But people are going to be mesmerized by the short clips, and they're going to want to watch it all. All right, the next one here is they're getting a little more detailed with the hooks. Great reels nail the hook is what they say. So there's 3 different tips here. The first one is don't bury the punchline. So the first few seconds are a statement of intent to bring your pitch right up front. So it's saying like right then and there, you need to hook them in. So that's why I think hooks are one of the strongest aspects of Reels, because that's what's going to stop the scroll. So I've actually started leaning more into spending more time on my hooks, because I used to not spend so much time on, like I spent time on them, but I really didn't spend as much time as I could. So now when I have a really great reel in mind, I'll go to my notes app on my phone and I'll kind of start writing out different hooks that I could use for that reel, and I'll just start listing them out. And the more I like list them out, the more that come to me. And then I'll kind of read through them all and be like, okay, if I was my target audience, which hook right now would kind of pull me in and make me keep watching the video? Which one's the strongest hook for me? So that's a little tidbit for you. Another hook suggestion is to ask a question. Take your product idea and turn it into a question. Like, we have a new foundation. Want to hear the secret hack for flawless skin? So that's kind of like a product based. They have a new product. It sounds like, hold on. Oh, I read that wrong. I'm sorry. It's saying, instead of saying we have a new foundation as your hook, instead flip that to ask a question. Want to hear a secret hack for flawless skin? See how much better that sounds? Like, you're not hitting the technicality. Oh, we have a new foundation. No, you're instead hitting that pain point. Oh, do you want to have flawless skin? So sorry, I read that wrong, but that is a good tidbit for you guys. Don't talk about your technicalities. Don't talk about the description of your product. Instead, talk about the pain point or the desire that your audience needs. Experiment with your hooks too. Like, maybe you have the same concept and you want to try 2 different hooks. Do it. Post two separate reels with 2 separate hooks and see which one performs the best. Only a small percentage is going to see your content in the first place, so why not test out different hooks? All right, talking about human presence, says talk to your audience. Look them in the eyes, look inside of that screen on your video, because guess what? Showing your audience is going to humanize your brand. They also say, like, if you have products, unboxing videos are really good. Demos are really good. Showing off exactly what that product does is a really good suggestion to get your audience involved. Now, they've got a little research in here. Now, this is based on people who advertise their reels, but based on a sample of over 1 million reels ads, we see that reels with human presence had a 27% higher click-through rate. So that's pretty huge when it comes to ads itself, because you want people to click on your ad. So they're saying that 27% more people clicked on that ad because there was a human involved. And I highly attest to that. Get your face involved. So here at the studio with the girls, I'm going to start assigning them to do a reel like every Monday with all of the team inside of it, because we've noticed, we see it on our reels results. When we add our face, when people hop in and they're showing off their personality, it performs way better than Darby posting a carousel about our services. So get your team involved. You don't have to do it all. Now, if you are a one-man band, you are going to have to do it all, but you don't always have to like show your face. You could at least like do the B-roll thing that I was talking about. Just set your camera up during the day. You're eating at Panera today. Okay. Record yourself eating for 10 seconds. You're going to the doctor. Okay, record yourself walking into the doctor's office. Set your phone up in your car while you're sitting there applying your makeup. There's so many things that you do during the day that could be used as B-roll without even having to think about it. Okay, so that kind of talked about the characteristics that you want to lean into for reels, but now they have some reels ideas like story types, which I think this is pretty good. I'm actually pretty proud of this playbook. Like, I really thought that I was going to do some more like criticizing it, I guess, but I'm actually impressed by the things that they're giving us here. So the first idea they have here is before and afters. Now, I know you guys have heard of before and after reels, but there's this really cool one that this lady is holding her plant. So this is a product-based reel. So even if maybe you sell a digital product, I'll talk about how we can do that here. So she's got a product, like a physical product, and it says my plant's before plantee, and it's like this really small dingy plant. And then the next part of that video says my plants after planting. And it's this huge plant that she can barely hold. And then the third video is showing off the product. So that's really good. Let's imagine that there's a lot of you on here that listen to me that are teaching women how to make money online. Like, let's just talk about MRR. So maybe you could do like a sad face, the first one that says something like, before I got MRR, and it's you like holding your phone and you're sad. Maybe you make your hair all gross and you look like, make yourself look like you're homeless. Okay. Then the second one is going to say, after I purchase blah, 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 whatever course it was. Now you're going to have your makeup done, your nails are done, like put your purse on and just walk with confidence, So like you're showing off how you did this life change and it changed your life. You're showing the dramatics of it. You're showing the before and after of doing that one thing. These are very powerful type of reels and should be used for any product or service provider that's out there. If you're listening to this podcast today, before and afters are what are going to be powerful for people to really believe you and trust what you have to offer. The next one here is the Q&A, which I love. I used to do these a lot more than I do now, but like what you do is super simple. You have a video and you use the text overlay to write the question out. And then it's you answering that question, but you're going to want to try to keep it under 30 seconds. You can go up to 30 seconds, but anything over that, Instagram has already said that reels over 30 seconds do not get as much traction. So these are simple. What I do love about these Q&A reels that they're showing, because they have little pictures, the question is like 5 to 6 words. It's right in the middle of the video and it's black and white. So it's super easy to read. They're also using that super simple font. So it's not like cursive font or hard to read font. It's just simple, easy to read. If someone's scrolling, they're going to be able to see that super easy, stop and listen to your answer. Okay, so that's kind of the gist of what's inside of this playbook. I think those are pretty good tips for you guys. I think to close out this episode, my own personal tips, what I have seen work. Obviously, short reels work the best for me when it comes to views. But if I am trying to sell something or push someone to my website or something like that, I have seen longer form videos perform better because I can tell people are paying more attention, they're very invested, so they're going to take further action. So you can kind of tell, like more views, shorter video, obviously, longer video, they're probably going to be more invested and take the action that you want them to take. The next tip I have is keep your text short, simple, to the point. If you don't know how to use the text tool or you're really kind of confused on what you should be writing there, I always use like keywords, key phrases, keep it short and simple and easy to read. Spend time on your hooks. Ask ChatGPT to come up with some hooks for you. I'll be honest with you though, ChatGPT has not been giving me good hooks lately. You know what has though? I've been going on to Pinterest, and Pinterest has some good hook experts out there that are giving us these free resources. So go look over on Pinterest for some good hooks. And then lastly here, I'm always a big, huge fan of trending audio, but I've been playing around with trending audio and original audio, whether that's me talking, whether that's me taking audio from TikTok and uploading it over to Instagram. Don't always feel like you have to jump on the trending audio train. It's nice and it can be helpful, but it's not an end all be all, especially with the way that things are transforming over on Reels. Everyone's doing them now, so you really need to try to do things that will help you stand out on the app. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, please leave me a review. Please download the podcast and send it over to a friend or a family or a loved one that could benefit from learning about Instagram Reels. All right, thanks guys.